feeling like I'm academics. Can't ride away.
Yo, Meek said, I need a royalty analyst to account for my music business. Yo, it gotta be Chat GPT writing these Meek Mill posts by now, bro. Ain't no way, bro. Ain't no way. Ain't no way, bro. Niggas say need a royalty analyst to account for my music business. Let's move on. I heard some shit about the gambling shit. At the NBA and the gambling shit. Oh no, I was watching Brilliant Idiots. Not Brilliant Idiots. Flagrant 2. The nigga named Shams or whatever his name is, right?
I think there's an interesting thing though.
Regulated,
Legalized gambling is happening.
well, JB Bickerstaff, the Pistons coach, he said not all money is good money. So there is that school stuff.
So some of these people are now. The other argument is people are going to do it anyway. Yeah. So like they're going to do it with some guy that's wearing a leather jacket in the back of an alley, or they're going to do it, online, some professional thing, whatever. The point that I'm trying to make is the game has changed in a way, the game of gambling, in that you can do all these like prop bets.
Those are the killers.
And
those
this
are
is
the killers.
because before you had to actively throw a game. You had to make sure your team lost.
Yeah.
Now you just got to make sure you get less than 8 rebounds. Mm-hmm. And it's easy to get less than 8 rebounds or less than 6 assists when you just sub yourself out because your toe hurts. So you get your little 4 assists, your team might be up by 10. You go, okay, my team's not going to lose. I'm not going to have negatively impact my teammates. And I know that I'm not going to cover the spread. And then my boys or the mafia, whoever it is, can make a bunch of money and nobody gets hurt. I at least imagine
The
that's
under on points, I just pass. It's like the most charitable way to do it.
Well,
now I'm getting.
All right. You should watch this whole segment. This guy's like an NBA insider. They're saying that they're investigating a bunch of niggas for gambling fraud. They're even thinking James Harden throwing games, gang. I ain't gonna lie to you. They think James Harden. Apparently, he had a line of 21. He scored 20 points first half, and he said, "I'm good." You feel me? He said, "I'm good." He ain't scored another point for the rest of the game. He said the prop points is 20 points, 20.5. He had 20 at halftime. He had 0 in the second half. Now, I'm not saying that means he's doing it, but I do think there's like a reasonable, constructive conversation that should be had about not only gambling in sports, but definitely how these leagues and teams and associations are taking advantage of like what gambling is. I'm going to give you out some interesting stats. So historically, and I don't know if you guys are into sports, name whatever sports you're into. I'm watching the chat. Are you into NBA? Are you into NFL, MLB, NHL? Are you into soccer? Are you into, I guess we would be talking about MLS for that. Or if overseas, you could be talking about some other club type of association. Anyway, look like you guys are into basketball. I'll say this. So this is only going to get worse. And I do believe that if you're a fan of basketball, you should have, and I used to really be anti this thought where you would have to assume and have to just come to terms with the game is rigged. But it is impossible for the game to be not enacted upon by especially gambling, which is going to lead to players throwing games or manipulating the results based on a few things. So let me kind of, I'm going to break down why I believe the only way I don't want to blame the players, as I'm going to just blame the institution of gambling being allowed into the games. So it's easy to blame the players to say, well, you're getting paid $20 million. Why did you need another $500,000? You're greedy. You're greedy. I'm going to take the approach back. These companies are already getting billions of dollars, but they still, because every company wants to increase revenue, they have signed deals basically with the devil and got in bed with gambling companies, right? Let me show you why players will always be susceptible, no matter how much money they make, to what this gambling shit is. Okay, first and foremost, last year, and I'm giving you, and if you guys could Google it afterwards, around $13 billion was pulled in from sports betting, right? So the sports betting market about $13 billion. It's almost incrementally increasing every year. Now, how do NBA or say the NFL make money? And this is why I say this is the beginning of the end of any type of fairness in sports, because players, there's too much incentive to fuck with the integrity of the game. So to break down the business of basketball and the business of NFL, if there's a pie of how much money comes in, right? And based on the money that comes in, depending on what collective bargaining agreement really dictates, but usually it's around, they usually stipulate about half of the revenue that comes in could go to pay the players. That creates a salary cap, that creates whatever. Let me give you numbers, So the NBA, they're in the middle of a 11-year TV deal. To this date, TV accounts for the majority of how these leagues get money, right? So NBA has a TV deal, which is about 40 to 46% of their overall revenue. It's the deal is $76 billion over 11 years. The NFL, the NBA has 82 games. The NFL, which has, 17 games? They're in a 11-year deal as well. But theirs, because, there's just more viewers, even though it's less game, more viewers for these bigger games that they tower over basketball games in terms of viewership. They're in a $110 billion dollar deal over 11-year period. So for NBA, there's 46%. 46% of their revenue, or let's say 40 to 46% of their revenue is TV. What are the other percentages? Like 15 to 20 is ticket sales, jersey sales, sponsorships, and these other things that they do to make it up. But the majority of how these leagues make money is TV deals. They sign these TV rights deals. These days, sometimes Twitter might be into it, where they could broadcast a game on Twitter, Netflix, or whatever the case is. But that's how they get the lion's share of the money they get. Remember, the money coming in gets broken down, usually per the CBA and how they establish salary caps. Around half of that goes to the players. That's why each and every year you see players keep getting more and more money, because these deals are incrementally damn near increasing. What ends up happening is that the NBA has introduced this new way of monetizing the game. This way is through gambling. So what they've done is they've made DraftKings, they've made FanDuel what they call their partners, their gambling partners, which means these companies get to advertise with them and advertise and also use certain stuff with the NBA to create lines and advertise lines to hopefully get more people to gamble. I believe, in comparison to the TV deals, it's not the biggest thing right now, but it's like $1 billion or $2 billion worth of equity yearly for the NBA right now, right? Or revenue, actually. The problem is, it's the players. They're not getting what the association is getting out of the gambling thing, because the way how they do these gambling deals with the NBA or the NFL, they don't directly benefit the players, especially the players who are being betted on. So, and tell me if I'm losing y'all with some of this. Tell me if I'm losing y'all with any of this. The only way to cure this gambling shit, you got to treat it like jersey sales, right? Which means so the way how they do jersey sales is this. LeBron is probably going to have the best selling jersey every year. That money doesn't go to LeBron. What it does is that there's a portion of all jersey sales from all players. It actually gets allocated to every single player because, number one, for LeBron to be popular, he has to play versus someone. So they kind of just pool the money up and then distribute it to everybody, right? They got to do that for gambling to really incentivize players not to throw shit or not to have people bet on them independently. If every player got a percentage of every bet placed on them, whether they won or lost, it would incentivize them to not be in the business of throwing a game or going for the under because they would just want to be a player who is getting betted on. You get what I'm saying? So it's right now we're in a financial situation that the NBA, who's greedy, the NFL, who's greedy, and I guess it was inevitable, but they're in bed with these gambling companies. They want to outlaw the gambling, but benefit from it and hope the players are the saints. No, the players are going to, come on. It's a bunch of people. It's a bunch of niggas. Come on. The only way to cure this, they got to make it a way where, hey, if y'all say you got LeBron's over, you bet $100, and I got LeBron's under, I bet $100. Let's say even if it's 1%, it shouldn't matter if LeBron gets the over or the under. There should be 1% drawn from both of those wagers and paid to LeBron. Does that make sense? Does that make sense at all? Because without that, it's no reason why these players wouldn't do these micro gambling events where, again, when I'm saying micro gambling, you're not throwing a game. But if they're saying you should only have 5 assists, or the line is you having 5.5 and you have 5 assists, all you got to do is every time you get the ball, you pass the ball before half court, or if you're now in the you're at the other team's hoop or whatever, you just take the shot or don't pass it to somebody who's open. So I was kind of watching this. I was really watching how financials affect everything. And that's when I went down the rabbit hole of figuring out how NBA players and how the NBA gets money. Currently gets money. The majority of the money comes from these NBA TV deals, which I didn't know. $76 billion for 11 years is crazy. But it's for the TNTs of the world, Peacocks, Netflix if they want the games, ABCs, everything. When you're about to introduce more billions and the players already know that they ain't going to get part of it, the players going to get theirs some way, somehow by throwing games, or not throwing games, but by playing around with these lines and doing the under shit, unless you put them part of the finesse. Gambling is really only meant to finesse one person, the bettor. You can't finesse the person who is being betted on, because at that point, they're going to end up finessing you by underperforming or rigging it with bettors of their choice, if that made any sense. So I seen people bring up the James Harden thing, but just some interesting stats. If you ever look at it, how much of NBA revenue is TV revenue? Is TV deal? Yeah. So the media rights is almost half. So also I'm extrapolating, and I know I'm getting a little bit nerdy with this, so I apologize. I could tell when either I know I'm making sense, but it's a little boring. What's happening is that the TV rights deal, we're at a pivot in the NBA and the NFL since COVID, there aren't more people watching. There's less people watching. And what's happening is that the TV rights money is going to go down. So the NBA, like any company, is trying to figure out how do we subsidize and make up for it. They're trying to do it with gambling. So as the TV deals starts to dip a bit, seemingly, which maybe it doesn't because Netflix and when I mean mostly TV, we're talking about linear TV. Like, TNT, they ain't really want to pay the last money to get NBA back again because niggas is watching less. When that money starts dipping, the NBA is trying to make it up with gambling. But now when you make it up with gambling, the players are looking at it like, wait, hold on, what are we getting out of this? And also, this is more of a definite thing that's determined by us. It's like the jersey sales thing I'm saying. If you weren't good, your jerseys wouldn't sell. It's not that, the TV rights deal, they could be like, oh, well, we broadcast every game whether you play or not. If you're not good, your jersey doesn't sell. And if you're not a player who is somewhat impactful, no one's going to make prop bets on you. So it's the same type of thought I'm trying to say. If they're trying to continue going into the future where they're making up revenue with gambling, if you don't cut the players in, expect half the league to be throwing. Half of the league. And right now I think it's probably 2 players per team or 1 player per team. That got some weird shit going on. Maybe not the highest paid guy. Maybe it's like a 6-man, a guy who gets like 10, 15 minutes a game. But trust me, that he's doing some shit. Or maybe it's like the guy who he starts, but like he averages 8 points. Anyway. That sucked the air out of the room with that one. Pause. It's kind of boring, huh? I did a lot of research on the topic. And it seemed interesting to me, but I know y'all were like, boring. I could hear it. It was interesting for me to realize, look, TV deal for NFL. They have a 11-year, $111 billion deal, right? How much percentage of NFL revenue is the TV deal? It's 62%. Essentially, these leagues are just making all of their money from the fact that they could guarantee that people are going to watch it. The ticket sales are like, right? But it's all about guarantee that people are going to watch it. But it's finally at an inflection point where TV viewership, if you look at it, TV viewership of NBA in the last 3 years. It's starting. Okay, look, it declined then. Let me see. You gotta look. Well, this is the finals ratings, so that's a little bit different. But yeah, technically, right? From 98 going on, you can see the viewership is actually declining. So this is a chart of TV viewership. So eventually, like, yes, advertisers are willing to pay more. That's why the TV deal now is worth way more than it did in 2000. But technically, there was more people watching in 2000, according to them. So that's why gambling is coming in, because it's the subsidy of what they're going to lose out eventually on with the TV deals. And if they don't get it right, I think the players are going to start throwing games, man. And I can't wait till it's an active superstar throwing game. That's going to be very important. Okay. Hopefully you guys got it. Let's move on to another topic.